All right, we're back, and today we're looking at the fully assembled pipe rack from York Bazaar. Stick around. Fellas, welcome back. It's Robert, your everyday gentleman, and like I said, today we are looking at the fully assembled pipe rack from York Bazaar. Now, I've got some pros and some cons I want to go over with you. There's some good and some bad, and of course I want to share my fully unbiased, honest thoughts with you guys. I know that's why you guys come to me, so that you can get the truth when it comes to these products. But before we get into it, if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. If you're into not only pipe tobacco, but also things like men's style, fragrances, grooming, whiskey, cigars, and other topics for the everyday man, then this might be the place for you. Consider subscribing and joining the growing EG family. And if you're already a member, I want to thank you for your continued support. And without further delay, let's go over this pipe rack. All right, fellas, so, let me move this. By the way, I'm drinking some Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Rye today. It's pretty good stuff. It's the first time I've had it, and it's not too bad. So let me take a swig, and then we'll jump into this review. Pretty good. All right, so like I mentioned, there's some pros and some cons when it comes to this pipe rack. Now, first off, if you remember the unboxing that I did, which I'll link up here for you all to check it out, it's a very, very simple assembly. It didn't take me, I'd say, less than 5 minutes to get it put together. If you recall, I went over this, I showed you guys this little screwdriver here, which didn't really end up using. I'm more of a power tool guy myself.
6.8 amps.
There's only 4 screws that you had to put together on this thing. It was assembled extremely well, and the only thing that gave me a little bit of a trouble spot was these shelves here slide in, and once you put in the screws here, it gives you a little bit of a tight fit as far as sliding them in to their spots that they go into. After a little bit of play, they got in. It was not anything that was too difficult to do that required some, modifications to it or anything like that. And to be honest, I'd rather have it fit a little tight than too loose or something like that, where it's gonna eventually fall out, it's gonna slide out too easy. In this case, they don't really move at all once you get them in there. So assembly, like I said, is extremely easy. Now, as you can see, it's cut extremely well. That's what makes assembly so easy. These lines and everything are pretty well flush. The parts fit well onto there. Everything looks nice and clean. Like I said, there weren't any adjustments or anything that I had to make to the parts. And even though it's a very simple design, as far as the 4 screws on the top and the bottom on all 4 corners, it's very sturdy. There's really no wobble on here or anything like that. The solid wood helps to make this a very solid design. Now, even though it's solid wood, it's also a very light rack, which is good, especially if you do decide to wall mount this. The less weight you have on the rack itself, the better, especially if you do decide to put tobacco on this bottom shelf here, or even on the top shelf, whatever you decide to do. The pipes themselves aren't going to take much weight, but once you start putting some mason jars or some tins of tobacco here at the bottom, that's going to add some weight. So the less weight that you have on that wall, the less stress, the better. Now, another thing that we touched on in the previous one when it comes to this here is you can see now how the layout of the stem rest on here on the shelves helps to make this an angled view of the pipes as opposed to straight on. You can see, or I showed you in the previous video, the difference between looking at a pipe straight on versus at the angle or the profile of the pipe. To me, this is just a much more attractive view. And so when you have that on your pipe rack, it gives it a much better display for all of your pipes. Now, another plus with this product here is the price point. I mean, for about 50 bucks is what this is currently running for. You can't beat it. It's solid wood, like I mentioned. It's not pressed wood or anything like that. It's got good quality construction. It's very attractive. It's a good looking piece. So for 50 bucks, you can't beat it. There's a number of other pipe rack options out there. They're gonna cost you a lot more. Some are much more decorative, some are going to hold more pipes, but you're going to be looking at $100 to a few $100s for a pipe rack like that. Whereas this one, you're paying, like I said, 50 bucks. And then if you decide to get a few of them, if you're gonna gift them, you know, it's the holiday season, even though you're watching this probably after Christmas, but birthdays or Father's Day or anything, whatever the occasion is, it makes an excellent gift, and bulk pricing makes that price point come down even lower. Now, as far as things that I notice, you can call them cons or things that could use a little tweaking from my point of view. One of the things is that this has a few, you know, it's very good quality construction and the finish is nice, but there are, from what I noticed, a few blemishes. Not anything that I would consider a deal breaker per se, something that would, you know, if I would have purchased this product, where I would have wanted to return it to the vendor. There are some blemishes here on the finish. It's not exactly uniform per se, but overall, I mean, it's a good finished quality. I don't know if you can make it out here, and I'll try to get some close-ups so you can see what I'm talking about. But if you can't see it here, it's nothing you can see too drastically, but it's something that I did notice, so it's something that I wanted to point out to you. Now, another thing that's kind of a cosmetic thing is that it doesn't have covers for these holes that are drilled out for the screws. Again, not a deal breaker, but it's something that you see, especially, you know, if there were holes that were on the back here where you're not going to see them, it's not that big of a deal. But if you are, you know, sitting this on a tabletop like I have it now, you can see these holes up here, and, you know, covering them up is just something that makes it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Another thing too, going on that part, is I wish that they would have included some little stick-on adhesive pads to put at the bottom of the pipe rack. If you are going to go with a tabletop option, it sits nice on the tabletop just by itself like that. But anytime you set something on here, I like having some padding on there just to make it a little more even, make it a little more stable, because you know, especially if you use like the little silicone adhesive pads, it keeps it from moving around. And again, it's just a little added touch that I think this pipe rack could benefit from. But you know, it's something that's a very inexpensive part. If you do decide to do it, you can pick them up at the hardware store for, you know, a couple bucks. Now, one thing that I did notice, and when I addressed this to the company, they told me there is an option to address it, but let's see here. You have these church warden pipes, right? These aren't a great fit for this particular pipe. Now, if you have a pipe stand, I don't have one out here with me, but if you had a pipe stand, you could set it up here on top and it wouldn't be an issue. But as far as putting it inside of the rack itself, it becomes an issue unless the option that they showed me is that you can use the whole pipe rack to just sit your church wardens, where if I did that, it might work okay, but then it's really just for church warden pipes. And I have a couple of them. I have maybe, I think, 3 church warden pipes that I like to smoke. But it's not really made for having 1 or 2. If you have 7, then you can fit them all on here. But if you're gonna have a mix, church wardens aren't really gonna fit in here with your standard pipes. Now, one last thing, again, not a major issue, just something that I thought about as I was, you know, toying around with this pipe rack, is this trough here where the bowl of the pipe sits. It has a straight edge, right? It has straight edges on both sides, which works good. It's not anything that keeps the functionality of it. As you can see, my pipe is sitting there at an angled profile, and it works fine. But I'm just wondering if maybe having it still a trough, but having it rounded on the inside as opposed to squared out with those straight edges on the sides, maybe it might work a little bit better. What the company told me when I brought this up to them is that they went with this straight design because it's a little bit of the trend, is what they're saying, with shelving options like floating shelves and things like that. You see a lot more squared out designs, which makes sense, right? But I don't know, I still think that having a rounded trough on there would work a little bit better for seating that bowl as opposed to these straight edges. And that's pretty much it as far as the things that I saw were issues or cons, like I said, to this particular pipe rack. Again, nothing that's really a deal breaker. The blemishes are okay. It's nothing that's, you know, a deal breaker to me. Those other items that I talked about, you know, I have these church wardens that I use from time to time, but it's nothing that's going to keep me from, you know, being satisfied with this for the rest of my pipes. The majority of my pipes are standard pipes like this, and it's going to fit them just fine. So it's definitely, after looking at this product, it's definitely something that I think would benefit a number of pipe smokers out there, especially if you have a number of pipes that you want to display. So again, it's definitely something I think you should check out. If you're looking for a budget pipe rack that's not going to break the bank, the pipe rack from York Bazaar is the way to go. Now remember, they do offer that 10% discount code from now until the end of the year. We've got a few days left on that. I'll put the discount code here and I'll link it. I'll link the website down below along with that discount code so you can check it out. But even if you're not taking advantage of that discount code or we're past that date, it's still priced extremely well. So definitely check them out. Now, if you found value in this video, make sure you let me and YouTube know by hitting that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and do all the things that help this channel continue to grow. And remember, being a gentleman is an everyday thing. Cheers, fellas.